Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're spending hours doing product research, struggling to find profitable products, and then when you do finally close a wholesale account, you analyze the products and nothing is profitable. In this video, I'm going to break down the exact strategy you can use to actually spend less time sourcing and find more profitable products. Now, there's a lot of gurus out there talking about how easy it is to make money on Amazon, and let me be very clear, this is not one of those videos. My claims are backed by results. I've been able to scale my Amazon wholesale business to 7 figures, doing over $7 million in sales so far this year, all while sourcing for only 1 hour per week. This strategy has also helped dozens of my other students, like Johan, who's doing $80K in monthly sales in just his first 7 months, or Jacob, who's doing $30K in monthly sales after only 3 months and on his way to closing his first brand exclusive. So let's get right into it. First things first, I'm not here to withhold information. The sourcing strategy I'm going to teach you in this video is a concept that I got from the book, The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend giving it a read. The concept is called raising the floor. Let's talk about what it means at its core. The floor stands for your minimum standard of performance, and really it's the lowest acceptable outcome you'll tolerate, whether it's in business, health, or life. Most people try to raise the ceiling, pushing for bigger wins, but leave their floor unchanged. That's why you get spikes of progress, but then crash back down. Sustainable scaling happens when you raise the floor. If your worst days are still operating at a high level, you'll naturally grow faster without burning out. Let's think about this in real life. If your floor for fitness is I must exercise at least 30 minutes per day, even your bare minimum keeps you healthy. If you're investing and your floor is that I'll only buy assets that return 15%, your worst investment is still pretty solid. Let's put this in the context of Amazon product sourcing. I see sellers all the time settle on low-hanging fruit. They spend hours doing product research, building a list, contacting the brands and distributors, only to find products that are only selling 100 units per month at a $15 sell price. You need to raise your floor. By raising the floor, you will actually spend less time sourcing because you are immediately raising your baseline and cutting out the low-hanging fruit. As I've said in other videos, the first step to growing a successful Amazon wholesale business is sourcing the right kinds of companies. If you're able to master your sourcing process, you're loading up your pipeline with more quality leads, and as a result, you have a higher success rate when you contact the brands. With a higher success rate comes more profitable wholesale accounts and a bigger and more profitable business. Setting this baseline and dialing in your sourcing also helps you target brands that aren't just taking any Amazon sellers, putting you in a better position to close wholesale accounts that most Amazon sellers aren't closing. The number of sellers you are competing against on the listing goes down, the retail price goes up, creating consistency and more money in your pocket every single month. So how do we set our floor? We have to qualify our leads based on 3 factors. Number 1, the average selling price, also known as ASP. Number 2, the monthly unit volume. And number 3, the level of representation on Amazon. So let's dig into these 3 criteria a little bit further. Number 1, the average selling price. When I look at a listing on Amazon, the first thing that I look at is the price that it's selling for, but not just the price that it's selling for today. I have to go to Keepa on the listing and look at the price that it's been selling for over the past 90 days. By analyzing the Keepa chart from a price standpoint, you gain a historical view of what that product is doing in terms of price. This is another problem that many Amazon sellers have, which is that they buy products solely from looking at the price that it's at today. By looking at Keepa, you get a historical view of the price. This is one of the biggest shifts that I went through in my business. When I made this shift in my business, I saw massive results. It was a small shift, but it created a massive change. I started targeting products that had a much higher average selling price. And by doing so, I was left with more meat on the bone, less price tanking, and more profitability that I was able to make on every single sale. I cut out the products that were selling at only $15 a piece and substantially raised my ASP. The second key factor that we need to be looking at is the number of units moving monthly. Many Amazon sellers fall short because they're targeting products that are only moving 100 units per month. But on the other end of the coin, we also have to compare the relationship of the number of units selling to the price. So a product moving 100 units per month at $200 average sell price is actually pretty good because we're left with a decent amount of revenue. But a product that's only moving 100 units per month at a $15 sell price is really not going to be worth our time. Another big mistake I see new sellers make is they actually target products that have way too high in unit volume. This means that you're targeting way too big of a brand. If you target way too big of a brand, when you go to contact that brand, it's going to be impossible to reach anybody at the company. And again, you're going to fall short in terms of the amount of products you can find and the amount of wholesale accounts that you can close. Number 3 is probably the most important criteria, the level of representation on Amazon. As I've said in other videos, most brands that you reach out to are going to reject you. That's because most of these brands don't want to work with Amazon sellers. So by inherently targeting brands that have a poor representation on Amazon, what we're effectively able to do is to put ourselves in a better position when we actually go to contact those brands. Well, how do we do that? Because we're targeting brands that have a poor representation on Amazon, we are able to come to the table with these brands, provide value right away, and then close that wholesale account that most other Amazon sellers can't close. When we're doing our product sourcing, we're comparing these 3 main criteria, but what's also super important is targeting the right size brand. I've said in past videos that we are targeting brands doing anywhere from $1 million in annual sales across all platforms to $10 million and upwards. The total revenue matters less, and it's more so the reason why we keep this revenue range is because we are looking to reach a brand that has an intimate and close environment where we can actually communicate with the owner directly or an executive decision maker. This allows us to cut past all the gatekeepers at the company and immediately talk with somebody who's making a decision, and then in turn, close that wholesale account and start making strides toward closing a brand exclusive. When we talk about the total unit volume that the listing is moving per month, I generally set a cap on that. And I don't really want to target listings that are moving more than 5,000 units per month because my accessibility to a decision maker at that company when I go to contact them is going to be next to impossible. More importantly than the cap, as we said earlier, is the floor. If you're targeting listings that are just really not selling that much with respect to their average selling prices, you're going to have such a hard time scaling your business. When you go to reach out to the brand or an authorized distributor, you are likely going to be met with a high level of resistance. This is just the nature of the business model. And because of this, it's important to understand these things going into the call. When you make your first call to a brand or an authorized distributor, you're going to want to listen to their tonality. On one end of the spectrum, we have our brands and distributors that are immediately going to say yes to us and be receptive to working with e-commerce companies. Believe it or not, this might sound really good at first, but again, to go back to the floor reference, these brands are oftentimes low-hanging fruit because they're taking everyone that reaches out to them. On the other end of the spectrum, we have our brands that are completely no, not interested in working with us, brick and mortar store only. Those brands are just not going to be worth pursuing. Right around in the middle is where our sweet spot is. This is because these are the brands that are totally unsure of their Amazon presence. They've set this company policy because of a past history of bad actors, but if you could actually come in and provide value to the brand and show that you're a legitimate business and serious about taking their brand to the next level, you're going to close this wholesale account. These are the brands we want to target. Raising the floor can't just be a mantra you repeat to yourself. In order to see real growth in your business, you have to implement the concept, which means that you can't be afraid to implement a minimum set of criteria and drop wholesale accounts that are dead weight, sucking your time, money, and energy. It also means you can't be afraid to go for those $1 million deals, knowing you'll face initial rejection from the brand so long as they meet our criteria we discussed in this video. You don't have to travel this journey on your own. If you're looking to work directly with me and my business partner, Brandon, inside our community of engaged Amazon brand partners, sharing wins, challenges, collaborating, and scaling together, check out the link in the description to see if you qualify. And with that said, in this next video, I'll teach you exactly what to say on the phone when you're contacting wholesale suppliers. Let's go.